I'll start. Catherine's got it for us.
Excellent. All right, can you share the workload if there's anything in there, Hazel?
Yes, I just noticed that I thought everyone would be able to view it on their own end, but it looks like they can't. So
As long as one of us can.
sure it is. Can everyone see this?
That looks cool. We've got
Zoom in
peace,
the
love,
entire-
sleep, meditation, exercise. I think I saw mindfulness somewhere. What else do we have? Taking time for myself, playing music. See, John, music is on here.
John might have typed that one.
Impressive typing while playing. I love it. All right. Jogging, quiet, rest, self-love. Cool. So many cool things here. Slow down, reading books, self-preservation, going for a walk, going to the beach, playing with my kitties. Ah, very cool. Relax. Uh-huh. All
And the bigger
right.
words mean more people type those in, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but
Yes.
the big ones seem to be sleep, peace, love, exercise, rest, and then mindfulness, self-love, meditation are also pretty big.
Yeah, and you can see that a lot of other typing words are similar to each other. So we are thinking along the same lines here. Very cool. Self-healing. Absolutely. Cool. So we're all in the right mind frame for self-care. Over to you, John.
Oh, thanks, Bettina. Hope you guys can hear me. Yeah, so obviously, you know, I love that word cloud thing. I hadn't seen that. I mean, I'd seen that, actually, I've seen pictures like that, but I didn't realize how they were generated. But what a neat idea that is. And a great thought to do that. So we can do that, you know, do that again. So anyway, welcome everybody. I'm delighted to see you. Welcome back for those coming back. For those new, welcome. This is a NIDA sponsored initiative through our R24 grant, and Dr. Bettina Huppner and myself are leading the investigation. The idea actually is to expand the research infrastructure on recovery support centers, recovery community centers. So we have a fantastic advisory board, as you can see here, and co-investigators. So welcome everybody, really good to see you. Today we have this fantastic topic and very important topic of self-care. That's why I was noodling on the guitar there at the request of my staff. I've got my guitar over here, which I pick up from time to time, and that's one of the ways I, you know, look after myself. Music is a good outlet for me, always has been, and I'm a songwriter and producer as well, and so I do that, and it's a very important part of my life, and so it's one of the ways that I kind of take care of myself and get away from my work. Not that I particularly want to get away from my work, because I love my work, but as another extra thing that I do to decompress. So anyway, I think that's it from me, right, Bettina? I just wanted to say welcome, and Bettina and our staff have really done an amazing job today to pull this very, which I think will be a very enriching review of self-care. So over to you, Bettina. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, John, for the words of welcome and sharing music with us. So I think our next agenda point was a quick poll, if I'm correct, Hazel and Catherine, and you're already familiar with it. We always want to see who's in the room. Our goal is to bring our different stakeholder groups together to build the infrastructure that John referenced, to think about how to advance the science on recovery community centers together. So that's why we always ask these questions. If you could take a moment to complete the questions in the pop-up window that show up, and you need to use the bar on the side to scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you can submit it. It becomes a blue button. Let me do that for myself real quick. And of course, we included some self-care items as well there that we're very curious about what you're thinking. All right. I kind of wish now we had done a check all and apply for the complicating ones rather than having to choose one.
Me too. Yeah, too bad.
Next time. And when we are ready, Catherine, are you going to be the one who's going to be sharing the results with us?
Yeah, I can share them. We're at 67% right now.
All right, let's take a look. Or do people want some more time? Do you have to close it? Okay, here we go. All right, so you can scroll down to our self-care questions. Oh, wait, I have to do myself. It's right. I was waiting for you to do it, but everybody can scroll themselves. All right, and we go down here. So I'll start with the one at the very bottom. To what degree do we think that being in recovery changes what self-care means? And we split, you know, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 basically, of yes, somewhat, carrying the majority, and yes, fundamentally for 1/3. And that's something that we're going to be diving in with Catherine and Dorothy in a little while. The things that we have thought about and that we wanted to think about is in what degrees, and there's going to be more we can add in discussion with all of you. Prioritizing self-care could create conflict, and then a lot of people saying, nope, doesn't complicate self-care at all. So we'll talk about those themes. Perfect. If you can go to the next slide for me, Catherine. There's two Catherines here, I apologize, guys. So I wanted to set a little bit of a stage here as we're talking about wellness. This is something that everybody in the RCC world is very familiar with. On the science end, perhaps not quite as familiar. So I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. For SAMHSA, the 8 dimensions of wellness have been outlined and everybody is aware of them, what they're thinking of. And we just put the slide here and we can also give you a link. So this is something that people have in mind on the SAMHSA 8 of things. And if you go to the next slide, if you want to dive down a little bit more into what self-care looks like, I can highly recommend this wonderful podcast by Phil Rutherford, one back, who's also a steering committee member for us, and just kind of take a listen to what they were talking about here in self-care in modern times, particularly in pandemic times. It's a very fun listen to. And yes, I will try to talk slower. Thank you for the reminder. All right. So that's sort of to just keep in mind those dimensions of these resources. What we want to do today, if you go to the next slide, is talk about what do recovery community centers do in the wellness space. They have the 8 dimensions from SAMHSA on their docket, and they are providing a number of services. So in the nationwide survey that we are doing, we asked recovery community centers about what kind of services do you provide. And 3 of those services we thought were relevant to self-care. And you might recognize some of them from our word cloud we did earlier. So we have here recreational and social activities. 78% of our surveyed RCCs said that they do something in this space. They provide that survey. Expressive arts, things like arts, craft groups, music, poetry. We heard a lot about music earlier. About 60% of surveyed RCCs said this is something that they are doing at their RCC. And then health, exercise, nutrition. We saw things about walking and taking care of yourself. 65% of them do that. So you can see that these kinds of self-care and wellness issues are happening a lot, but not in every RCC, and there's variation, but it's certainly a very prominent theme. So just those of us in the room who are not quite as familiar with RCCs. If you can go to the next slide, Catherine. So to actually get a real insight into what it looks like, we always include our live feature. So for people who are not familiar with what recovery community centers are, we always ask a recovery community center director to come and tell us what happens when you walk through their doors and what the experience is like. And Catherine Lovvorn is coming to us today to speak about her RCC, and will then also talk about wellness and what her center does specifically in the wellness realm. So if we can stop sharing, and Catherine Lovvorn, can you tell us what happens at your RCC?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. In my RCC, lots of things happen, but the main thing that happens when you walk through the door is you're going to walk into a warm, welcoming space. We're always going to greet you with a smile, whether that be a staff member or a peer that's here or a volunteer. We're going to make sure that you know that we have free Wi-Fi, which everybody loves. You know, free Wi-Fi. We always have coffee, we always have water, and we're going to start with how can we help you? What does that look like for you?
Wonderful. And so when people walk in, and then what does a typical first visit look like? What might people do?
Okay, so it's different for everyone, absolutely for
Mhm.
everyone. So we like to start with what's right with them. Let's have them come and sit in with one of our recovery coaches, and we're going to ask them what's right with them today. We're not going to focus on what's wrong. First, we're going to focus on what's right with them. So we start talking with them and trying to see exactly how we can help. We're just
Mhm.
listening at that point. So
Mhm.
are they in recovery? Do they want to be in recovery? Have they been in recovery for a while? What is it exactly that they're wanting from a recovery community
Mhm.
organization? Sometimes that looks like getting a recovery support network. Sometimes that looks like going to detox or getting into treatment or going to an outpatient facility, going to get stabilized on mental health medications because they may live with a mental health challenge. They may need a birth certificate or a driver's license or a job, or they may need help walking through how to fill out housing applications or even how to create a resume. They may need help with needle exchange or Narcan. They may need to know how to use the Narcan or to use a fentanyl test strip to test what they're going on. They may need to know how to call and make a doctor's appointment or how to read a bus line schedule. If they need to get on the buses and learn how to ride that, then we're going to walk through that schedule with them and we're going to give them a free bus pass. Do you need food? Do you need clothes? Where are you at right now and how can we support you where you're at? How can we walk alongside you while you're working through your recovery? Because it's a holistic process. It's not
Mhm.
just one thing.
Wow, that's really all around. I love it. And do people realize before they walk through the door that you would do all of those things? Are people familiar with that, or are they surprised to hear when you say where you're at, we're helping?
Yes, a lot of people are still surprised. Our nonprofit was established in 2016, and still now, almost, it's been years. And this year we'll be established for 6 years, but still, we still have to tell people what we do. They think we're a rehab or we're just a clubhouse. They don't know everything that goes on in here. They don't even know about the art room or the workouts or the pool table or anything else. There's so much more to it.
Great. And so we talked a little about the kinds of wellness and self-care services that we knew to ask about back in the day when we created the survey, and there's probably so much more. What part of that do you do, and what kind of wellness promoting activities do you do at your RCC?
Absolutely. One of the things that people wouldn't realize that are self-care, but doing a recovery coaching session with a recovery coach is part of self-care because you're able to sit in that moment with a recovery coach and get all of that out and have someone be able to listen to you in a safe space. It is comforting and it is safe and it is confidential and there's trust that's built there and there's wellness and trust. We're figuring that out, but also what we've learned is if we offer multiple things, because multiple things work for everybody, working out doesn't work for everybody, but some, like some of our peers, they like just to shut the door in the pool room and play pool by themselves. They may need to sit on the back porch in a chair and drink some water and have quiet time. We have, we have an art room, which is huge for people. They like to sit down there. Which is one of my favorite things because I like to see how our minds work. We're so creative, right? Humans are so creative, but they can turn something out of nothing, whether that be a piece of jewelry or a plate or we don't want to throw anything away because everybody can make something out of that, so they get to go down there and turn on the music if they want to or not have any music, and they get to create in that moment, and that's a form of wellness. We also have workouts. For a lot of them, it's just being able to figure out what they even want to do for self-care and figure out what's going to help them. So we just make sure we can offer as many opportunities and suggestions so that they can try and figure out what's going to work for them.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. And as you know, we also have Dorothy West here, and Dorothy is the director of the Center for Recovery and Wellness Resources in Houston, Texas. And so if we can get a spotlight on her too, Catherine and Hazel, if you could. Perfect. Thank you. So I want to ask you too, so wellness is actually part of a title of your RCC. So it's important. Why did you decide to put it into the actual name? And how do you promote wellness at your RCC?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dorothy West. I'm a person in long-term recovery. And I don't think you can have one without the other, tell you the truth. And I am, of course, this name was already chosen before I took the job. So, but it might be, along the course of what I feel like I represent, being a person in recovery. Our organization starts first with recovery language. I'm just like Catherine, I'm really, pleased to hear how her RCO is running, because it just sounds so similar to what we do as far as how we, engage individuals when they come into the center. We really present like a menu, because we have like a recovery cafe. So they come in and it's almost like our coaches kind of like they're walking into it. How can we help you? And they have a menu with all types of services and things that they may be interested in. So they get an opportunity to, just kind of pick what they want, to do. And then that goes to the coaches, and we see what kind of assistance we could provide to help them carry out those particular items. We deal with a huge diverse culture here, and so it's really it really is different for everybody. So that's why we just had a smorgasbord of different things that they could choose from and what they wanted to do. We do a lot of the, like I said, the exercise, health and wellness and nutrition. We do retreats. We just, teach them how to get away and just decompress. Me, myself, I have to do that daily. So, but yeah.
Because it gets a lot, right? So we need breaks, for sure. And now, so you saw our polling questions. What do you think? Do you think that being in recovery changes self-care? Is it the same? Does it complicate it? You mentioned that it's necessary, but does it look the same?
Well, of course, beginning the stopping of or reducing your substance use. I think a lot of our peers are thinking that that's where it ends. And I guess as you have an opportunity to learn more of what is stressing them out and what's going on with them, it opens their mind to what self-care is, and the self-care is directly the importance and the urgency of self-care to address that, because it could lead possibly back to using again. So I think that being in recovery changes what self-care means is because one stems off the other. Once you remove the substances, if you're not taking care of self, you tend to backslide into old behavior.
So the urgency and the importance is just more central. So awesome, great points. And Catherine, I also wanted to ask you what you think. Do you agree with Dorothy? What were you thinking of when you were thinking about does the self-care look different in recovery or not?
I actually agree with Dorothy. It does. It matters for all of us, but really when we're in recovery, I know that if any of you know anything about recovery, something they say in the beginning is this is a selfish program, and it doesn't mean that we don't care about anybody else. But in that moment, if we're not well, we can't be. If we're not well, we can't be mothers who are well. We can't be sisters who are well. We can't be a spouse who is well. We can't be an employee that is well if we are not well. So we have to take that very, very importantly for ourselves. That is like my number one thing is you absolutely have to have that for our staff, for myself, for anyone living in recovery, because if you don't, being overwhelmed and lots of stress and not taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, that is one of the number one reasons why people go back to using, because they want to feel something or feel nothing or feel better or feel worse. And that just can't happen. We don't want that.
as I saw John's comment here, put your own mask on first before helping others from the airplanes, right?
Right.
It's so
Yes.
that exactly, John. Thank you.
Yes. That was a great analogy.
And of course, that leads perfectly into our next segue as well. And I'm going to come back to you both, Catherine and Dorothy, right after Mary Ellen has got a chance to talk with us. So Mary Ellen Brown is a social worker and a scientist, and she was going to talk with us about the healthcare issues and the self-care issues that face those who are providing care a lot. And actually, we have some slides too. Catherine, if you can give me some slides on the results from our survey that I mentioned. So first of all, it's a peer workforce for directors of RCCs. 88% of them are in recovery themselves. And then there's larger and smaller RCCs, but on average, they have about 10 paid staff members, and then a huge volunteer base, about 13 volunteer staff members who are all peers. And they are all providing support for others who are in crisis while also managing their own recovery and hopefully keeping their own self-care and wellness in mind as well. So we wanted to think and talk a little bit about how do you manage that all? You know, that's a triple burden. How does that work in this space? And there isn't a lot of science, especially on the burden on those who work in the recovery field, and much less so even on, you know, there's some for mental health care workers, but much less so on a peer and volunteer workforce. So we've invited Mary Ellen to kind of talk to us about some of the concepts that are important in some of our best practice guidelines. Mary Ellen.
Yes, thank you. It's good to see you all today, and thanks for the opportunity to share a bit about what I know. And as a social worker, and have been studying and thinking about this issue in our field of social work for a while now, because I'm engaged in community practice, and this is something that that we struggle with in our helping professions. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share a bit. Can we go to the first? There we go. Thank you. So I want to just talk a little bit starting about just compassion fatigue, burnout. We hear these terms, secondary trauma, so what do they actually mean? And again, when we're providing that, care and services, this type of field that we're in, it can lead to stress, anxiety, fear, strong emotions. And through the pandemic, these have been exacerbated. And so how we cope with these emotions really can affect our well-being and the care and services that we give to others while we're doing our job, and the care that we give to those that we're in relationships outside of work with. So, what is compassion fatigue? What is burnout? Compassion fatigue is something that occurs when we actually take on the suffering of those who've experienced stress or trauma. And so burnout is, associated with too much work and not enough resources to do that work well. But burnout can happen to anyone. In our helping professions, we're especially susceptible to compassion fatigue, again, which is really the cumulative sense of fatigue or dissatisfaction in our work. But it's because we're exposed often to suffering, right? Like the suffering of the people that we support and that we serve through our profession. And sometimes that can translate into secondary trauma. So when we're working with people who've experienced trauma, vicarious trauma, we expose ourselves to that. It can be triggering emotionally for us who, through the empathetic experience, or, again, maybe it's, kind of triggers some of our own trauma experiences. And so it's really important to pay attention to compassion fatigue, to burnout, to the symptoms of that, and practice self-care so that we can prevent some of the manifestation of these triggers, some of the manifestation of these challenges and stressors. And then here on the slide, I just have, some of the sort of things to pay attention to that are signs of compassion fatigue, including, when we have this physical, emotional, mental exhaustion, when we're feeling exhausted, it can kind of all come together in this cluster of experiences that also this constant emotional upheaval at home or in the workplace. This is something that if we're just experiencing a lot of stressors, that is something that can really turn into burnout. And too many pressures, again, not enough support. I see PTSD in the chat. Negative self-concepts, jobs, at your attitude when you come to work. We may become detached, apathetic, angry, hostile. If we could go to the next slide. So again, these are all symptoms of stress. The CDC defines these symptoms of stress that can be associated with burnout, that, you know, we really need to be checking in on. Are we feeling irritated? Are we angry? Are we in denial about, you know, some stressor or something that we're experiencing at work? Are we uncertain, nervous, anxious? Do we feel helpless, powerless? Do we lack motivation? Are we exhausted, overwhelmed, sad, depressed, have trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating? And while some of the, you know, we're human in life, we experience stressors. This is something that everyone experiences, but if we're not paying attention to that, we're not attending to that, again, these can really lead to some severe mental health issues. And so we've got to really think about and pay attention to, if we're feeling cynical, if we're feeling like ineffective, where is that coming from? And so one thing we can do, if we go to the next slide, is really think about building our own resilience and really incorporating self-care as a regular routine, as something that we are practicing intentionally in our lives, in our work, and really finding that balance across, I think Catherine mentioned earlier, you know, our physical, our mental, our emotional, our relational, spiritual, all these aspects of ourselves, finding that balance is really important. And so communicating when we have job stressors with our coworkers, with trusted colleagues, with our supervisors, you know, these are really important things to communicate so that you can problem solve if there are things that can be managed within your work environment. Thinking about those factors that are triggering or causing that stress and working collaboratively, you know, again, within your teams about how do we identify solutions to that. Asking about accessing mental health resources in your workplace. You know, the employers have these resources for you. And so making sure that you're aware of them and how to access them. And when you're a supervisor, making sure that you're providing those sort of supports and resources to your team. Again, identifying and accepting those things which you do not have control over, right? Recognizing that you're performing a crucial role and that you're doing the best you can with the resources available. When we're it's not productive, right, to get into a cycle of guilt or shame or blaming yourself if, you know, you're feeling like you're feeling angry, you're feeling hostile, you're feeling some of those irritability. If we're just, you know, beating ourselves up over feeling that way, then we're not, that's not productive. So like, how do we sort of identify stressors, manage what we can, and then really practice and implement a self-care plan that will help prepare us when we are in times of stress and help build our resilience. We could go to the next slide. So some tips about kind of coping with stress and enhancing our resilience. When we increase our sense of control, we can do that when we have a routine, when we get enough sleep, when we're eating healthy meals, we take breaks just to stretch, you know, to rest, to talk with colleagues. You know, we take that time for ourselves. And again, I think in the earlier poll, right, there was a question about, is self-care, you know, something that, you know, is that selfish, right? Like, and I think it's hard for us sometimes as helping professionals to think about taking time for ourselves when we're really in the business of service to others. It's, you know, we may feel guilty about that, or we may feel like that's selfish, but it's not. You know, it's the put your own mask on first, right? That was shared earlier before you're helping others, because, you know, when we're investing in ourselves, then we can show up fully for other people. And so that's really, it's an important investment. It's a critical investment. And again, it helps to ensure that we're able to give what we need to give to this work. When we're outside of work, getting exercise, physical activity, if that's something that is restorative for you. And I do want to clarify that self-care is also not self-improvement. So, you know, really, when we think about the term self-care, it's restorative. It is, you know, it is really about, you know, doing something that is meaningful to you. You know, there were several people that said mindfulness, you know, meditation. So that may be something that is meaningful to you and that fills you up, fills your cup up, so that you, again, are restored and whole and you're well. The wellness is the other part of self-care that we're striving for. You know, if you can go outside, notice a flower, notice a bird, like notice something in your environment that brings you joy. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be something, it can be something very small. It can be something, just taking that moment to live in the moment and to notice the moment and to be connected is really important. If we could go to the next slide. So again, I mentioned like developing a self-care plan. Why do we do this? It's a preventative measure. It's a health, it's an investment in ourselves. It is a health and wellness strategy that can help prevent burnout. Again, we're at high risk of compassion fatigue, of vicarious trauma, and burnout. And so how do we mitigate that? How do we sort of manage that or prepare? Because we know we're going to be exposed to situations where we're called to do more and more, and sometimes with limited resources. So, again, really intentionally investing in ourselves, like coming up with a plan for self-care and committing to it, protecting time for it, putting it in your calendar. That's something, the team that I work with at my university, we actually have weekly meetings where we check in on a Monday and we check out on Friday. And part of that check-in is to verbalize like what our self-care plan is for that week. And then, we support each other along the way. And at the end of the week, we check in and say, how did that go? And again, if you didn't achieve everything you wanted, it's nothing to be, this is a growth, a process, something we're committed to. So it's not about, we help keep each other accountable, but it's not about like self-shaming or self-blaming if you didn't do what you hope to do. So we focus on, again, like establishing those goals, which can change from week to week, making sure that we incorporate them into our schedule, knowing that it's unique for each person and it's unique at each point in our life. So it may be something more in our, we need more balance and restoration in our physical self at one point, or spiritual self. Or a combination of those things, our relationships. And then when I speak about relationships too, I know that one of the things that is a challenge in the helping professions is like establishing healthy boundaries. And so, being able to have those sort of boundaries where you have like strong, healthy working relationships and you have a life outside of work is really important as well. But really, there's no one size fits all self-care plan. It's something that you establish for yourself. Again, it's based on the resources that you have, the things that are restorative and meaningful to you, your individual goals, aspirations, those unique activities that are coping mechanisms, strategies, again, to restore, to bring wellness and wholeness for you and your life and your situation. And so that's all I have to share right now. I am going to share some, we can stop the PowerPoint unless there's something after this, but I will share some resources in the chat that I also use. There's a burnout like self-assessment that I often will just do for myself every couple months just to check in and see, where am I? Maybe I'm not noticing, that I'm moving toward a space of burnout, and I need to pay attention to that. So there's a brief sort of self-inventory you can do to kind of see where you are. And then I'll share some other resources in the chat as well that you might pull that may help you think about, kind of defining your self-care plan for yourself, some models and frameworks that you can use. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen. And yes, Patricia, there will be definitely a copy of slides available. And the resource that you mentioned is the burnout one. We'd love to add that to our repository or scales. We collect, things that are useful in a variety of ways for gathering data about yourself and about your centers and so forth. So thank you for sharing that with us as well. So one of the things, and John and I were talking about this the other day, we all have so many things in our life, and self-care, where does it fall? And you mentioned as one of your tips and strategies, the communication, right? Communicating with the people around you. And I think that part of that is also setting norms, right? That it's okay that this is a topic that is important, that you don't feel you're doing it selfishly for yourself, but everybody on your team understands this is important, and that you can together support each other in that. Now in RCCs, Dorothy and Catherine, if I can get you back in here as spotlighted, this is there's so many stressors, there's so many moving parts. How does your staff handle this? Who wants to go first from you two?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
Well, like I said, a lot of things that has already been spoken is we try to communicate. What I do is I also have the staff do a recovery wellness plan, because I think a lot of stress builds up when their personal needs are not being met, or their endeavors, their goals, their hopes and dreams, and and they just feel like they're in, just this hamster wheel,
Mhm.
So I try to make sure I know where they're going, and then try to plug them into any kind of resources to know that I'm interested in their growth as well. And then,
Mhm. And with that, you're then really setting the expectation too, that it's okay for them to communicate you about things that are difficult and that they need help with, and that it's okay to put their own self-care first. That's
That's
awesome.
right. I give them a calendar at the beginning of each month so they can, it's almost like a blank check. What do you want to do this month for yourself? Where are your doctor's appointments? Where, the things that you need, your personal time to take care of yourself. So that's been helpful, along with the retreats, and just making sure that, we, during staffing, we check in to make sure everybody's in a good space.
Hmm. Absolutely. And Catherine, what about at your center? How's staff taking care of themselves and each other and the spirit?
Yeah. Okay. So here at Living Proof Recovery, I just want to say everybody knows we're all humans, right? We're always learning, we're always growing. About 2 years ago, I started reading a book by John Maxwell called Developing the Leader Within You. And one of the things that he talked about was making sure that in my service work that we're doing, because we work in these service jobs, all of us obviously do, we're giving, giving, giving. I had to learn how to, with all of my staff, they all need me differently.
Mm.
Some of them need me to check in every 2 weeks. Some of them need one-to-ones every week. Some of them need one-to-ones every day. I just have to make sure like the communication is good, but they all also need to be communicated to in a different way. Some of them need it direct. Some of them need it just in a conversation. It is completely different. But once I learned how each one of them needed me and what they needed from me, it made it a lot easier. So it was really just thinking outside the box for them and myself even. But as long as I'm checking in with them, whether that be once a month in our staff meetings, one-to-one by themselves, or daily, then their work performance is better. My work performance is better, and just listening to what they had to say, and then offering a mental health day. They get to choose one day a month to take a day off that's paid. That's their mental health day. That is specifically for them and their mental health, to have a day for them, just a day, just for them, so they can do whatever they want to do. And also to pitch in ideas on what we can do for wellness for our whole community. So, because it's not just up to me, it's up to all of us as a staff. We're all in this together. So they like to have input on how we can help our community and their wellness as well. So one person, her pathway to wellness is outdoor stuff. She likes to go hiking, fishing, things like that. So we'll do that one month. And then another day, we may go to and do like vision boards with art for the other staff member. Everyone's different, but as long as you talk to your staff and you try to meet their needs as well, then they meet the needs of the community way better, because we're all in this together, right? If we listen, people will tell you what they need.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Quick question. There was a question in chat. Oh, somebody already got it. John Maxwell, Developing the Leader in You. That was a question somebody wanted to follow up on.
It is such a good book. It's an amazing book, and it comes with an assessment. It has really helped me, and I've read it, I can't even tell you, probably too many times. But he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Awesome. Very cool. So now, one of the slides that Mary Ellen shared with us, it had cynicism on it as a symptom of stress. And of course, there's been so many bad stories and sad stories, especially with the pandemic, with the opioid epidemic on top of that. These are all incredibly stresses that are very recent, that are very dramatic and substantial. You all faced that in your centers. Did self-care go out of the window? Did it reinforce that we have to put self-care front and center? How were you able to maintain self-care under such pressures?
Yeah, for us, unfortunately, in the same month, it was June 2020, we experienced an overdose and a staff died from COVID. And these were highly, respected and loved individuals. So it really rocked our community. And I think that really catapulted us to really look at our own health a little bit more, other than, you know, what we generally do. We really checked in a lot more, had wellness groups, you know, just tried to, you know, make sure that people are getting access to healthcare. Because again, I guess during the pandemic, you know, COVID seemed to be attacking individuals of color a little bit more. So it was like, you know, just to recognize, you know, different diversities and what they needed. And of course, we all needed, you know, something during that time, if not just to close down and work from home. You know, we did that occasionally as well. So it was a difficult time. And like I said, we just really tried to check in a little bit more with each other and make sure we got tested a lot, and just continue to be able to address the concerns of our participants here.
So it didn't go out of the window. You still were able to keep it going. In fact, you realized even more the importance as you were going through. And yeah, that's terrible, listening to members of your community. Oh.
Yeah, we developed you know, it helped us start looking at who we are as people, not as someone that had an OD or someone that is sick with a chronic disease. So it really started us at like a memorial that really reflects the life of this person. Who is this person, you know, outside of their addiction, outside of, you know, their issues. So it really had a big response to the community to celebrate their loved one's life. So that's what came out of it as well.
That's great. Thank you, Dorothy. And Catherine, what did that look like for you all?
For us, that was a very hard time. It was. Everything across our whole nation really just changed. Everything changed. So also in June of 2020, along with COVID and overdoses rising, I also stepped into the position. I've been here since inception of the nonprofit and our recovery center, but that was our director, our founder resigned. So that was also, I had to learn how to be a director. So that was a lot. That year was a lot. I'm just going to say it was a lot. But what I found out during that time is there was so much hurt and there was so much pain. There was so much, the overdose rate rose dramatically. The people relapsing, that rate rose dramatically. But also, we shut down for 1 week and I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, we're going back to work. You know, we're going back to work. So we opened up the building and we did things like peer check-ins on the porch or outside or in a room by ourselves. Like we noticed that people were still calling. We need you. We need a full meeting. We need more than 10 people in that room. Can you space the chairs apart? So we cleared out a room in the basement and had it open, you know, so we could have meetings. We had people more eagerly seeking us than we had ever had before. So all the bad might have rise, but that good came from that. Yeah. And we healed through that. But it also brought us all as a community together in a way that I've never seen. And it ended up being beautiful through that whole thing. And with the self-care in that, like we just had to be more mindful and more aware of who was taking what day and how many staff was going to be here. Let's just make sure that you still get your days, but 2 people can't take the same day at one time anymore. Or, okay, so you got an appointment this day. I'm going to stay here till you get back and we'll tag team and I'll leave and I'll go to my appointment. You know, we just had to communicate very well so that everybody still had their time, but we had to be more mindful of the staff that was in the building. We needed more people and we still need more people. I mean, you know, we need more staff.
Right. So that again is a perfect segue. I was going to open it up to the whole group who's here. As you know, we're trying to bring together multiple stakeholder groups, you know, people who are at the RCCs, scientists, clinicians, healthcare decision makers. You mentioned you need more staff. What can scientists help? What can clinicians help? What can healthcare decision makers help you achieve that? What will you ask in the space of wellness, of self-care? What will be helpful? And also for everybody else, if you have other comments or questions to our presenters, floor is yours. Well, you'll ponder these questions.
Anybody want to say anything? Because I already know what I need. I need more staff. I need the money for more staff. There's so many people I could hire, but being a nonprofit, that's how we run. We have to submit grants and go through several processes just to be able to get there. But I mean, we do great. Our community is very helpful, but we also want to be able to pay people what they're worth too, because they give it their heart and their soul and their all, and it's a beautiful thing that we get to do every day, you know.
For sure.
I would like to add one of the things that help staff as well as the participants is the development of peer leadership. There are so many individuals with so much strength, and some of them, like I said, we are not always the expert in certain areas. So we try to look for the strength and empower the peers in order to, you know, go through peer coaching as well as, you know, facilitating groups. And that kind of eases up with limited staff. And I do understand that piece, but that peer leadership is just a powerful piece for us, because again, it kind of allows the participants some self-efficacy. And I think that is a big part of wellness.
Absolutely. Thank you for adding that. And for those of you thinking about the things you've said, you can ask about anything like we talked about. Does being in recovery change how your self-care looks like, or complicated, about things that we don't know well enough yet about how to support those providing care, anything at all? I see a hand here from Step Rocks. Go right ahead.
Hi. So, you know, during COVID, a lot of things happened for all of us. And one of the main things that happened is we learned how to work from home. So now, you know, I've experienced sometimes, you know, when I'm sick or, you know, I'm not well enough to come to work no matter what the reason, I will work from home because now I have the ability to. Where before, when you're sick, you stay home and you don't work. And now it's like not working doesn't even enter my mind, because now we all know how to work.
Bad.
And, you know, after listening to this, I'm like, you know, when we are not well, you know, take the time for ourselves, you know. And, you know, somebody talked about we need more staff, we need more staff. You know, we're in a similar situation, we need more staff. So that guilt comes up, like, I can't, because I can't, you know, leave my teammates, you know, because we really have become a team during all of these crises over the past 2.5 years. And now you are true, not to say we weren't committed before, but now we're really committed to each other. And you don't want to leave somebody high and dry. So it's very difficult for me. I will speak for myself. It is very difficult for me to say I'm not going to.
Right.
You know, so I have to learn to do better with that.
I hear you.
Work with family as well, but right now we're talking about work.
No, I think it's an excellent point about, you know, now you have a capacity to work from home, but where do you stop? You know, it's supposed to make things more flexible. It's not supposed to keep you working around the clock, and how to establish norms about it, and to make it allowable for yourself and role modeling for others, that it's okay for them too to take what they need without, you know, feeling like they're letting down the team. It's such a new territory we all have to learn, right?
Yes, Bettina, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you. You're welcome, Catherine.
That was beautiful, though. I just want to say that, because like a lot of people are afraid to say how they feel.
Yeah.
You know, and transparency is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, because I still to this day struggle with not answering my phone I mean, I get off at 5 and I put a cap on it till 7, but then when somebody calls, I'm like, I really want to answer that. I really want to
Yes,
answer that.
yes.
What if they need me? What if they need me? You know, we all struggle with that. So thank you for sharing that. That was very beautiful.
You're welcome. My supervisor tells me that all the time. You do not have to be available to everyone all the time. She tells me that all the time. You know, you know, I try to listen, but when that phone rings and you see, you know that recovery is going through something, you know, that empathetic part of you reaches for that phone. And I have to do better.
Yeah, so that you still have something to give the next day, right? For the next person.
We have one more person at the table who wants to say something.
Hi.
Please do.
My name is Wilfredo Marrero, and I worked in the field before. And when I want to express my feelings, I like to express them in my native language. And we need a lot of bilingual help. Bilingual. And that's why I need it.
Yes.
Very true.
Very true.
Thank you. I'm done already. Where are
I see a
you?
lot of thumbs up here.
Where are you?
Where am I?
Yeah, where are you?
I'm outside on my right outside my kitchen
What
to get
city?
some
What-
sunshine.
What city?
Very close. You guys are in Brockton, right? So I'm a couple miles down from you guys.
No, we're in Roxbury.
Roxbury. Okay. So Lakeville.
Oh, Lakeville. So then she's in Massachusetts.
Good for you.
Other comments, ideas about how things have been going for you, how you think success stories of something that you have changed that has really worked for you as you're trying to tackle these things? Oh, I see Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm from St. Louis, the DBSA Empowerment Center. And I just wanted to say thank you for this, all this information. You know, at our RCC, we're in a big city, and we're kind of seeing the after effects of COVID and the weather changing. And, you know, at our center, you know, we have similar things, you know, staffing, but, you know, a lot of the shelters and support and resources are breaking down. And, you know, some of my of the staff here and myself been feeling kind of helpless, you know, and I just wanted to say thank you for, you know, these tips that you have and that you've given us, and, you know, kind of putting things in perspective. It's been very helpful.
Thank you so much, Christina. All the credit there goes to Mary Ellen, who had the excellent feedback for us, and for Dorothy and Catherine for sharing their initiatives. And I love a mental health day and those kinds of things. And amazing. Thank you, Christina.
I wanted to just thank you, as well as being asked to present, because this was a topic that was just so close to me. My husband been diagnosed with like 2 months to live just recently, as I just became a new ED here. And just to manage, you know, both worlds has been quite an order. And when Mary Ellen, you were talking about burnout, it's like you know, sometimes I feel like I have to learn to function in both, you know, in both worlds here, you know, as far as burnout with caretaking, as well as burnout at work. And it's not always something you can, you know, run away from, or, you know, do one thing one time. So it is a matter of developing that routine. At least it's been helping me so far. It's like I do have some sanity left here. So I just wanted to thank you, just to hear everybody's, you know, take on it, and appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dorothy, and lots of love and strength to you and your husband. And I love the idea of the routine, so to help you get through, if you don't have to make the decisions, but it's part of a plan to take care of yourself. That's a great suggestion for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you. Marjorie, I see your hand up.
Hi, I'm here in Utah. I work for USARA. When I first came on, we were still in pandemic. Our building wasn't open quite yet to the public. And so we were doing a lot of things remotely and virtually. And I was warned about burnout. But I was also at the same time given tips on self-care and our focus in our center, our staff. We focus on self-care. So like 2 days this week, I worked remotely from home so that, you know, I could still be working and still be providing services, but also be taking care of myself at the same time. When I first got sober, I had no idea of self-care. I just needed to be sober. That was it. And so every day that I completed sober was amazing. Now, I've been sober for going on 19 years. And so self-care has changed fundamentally for me because it's a conscious practice. And do I forget sometimes? Absolutely. Once, you know, and then when I'm starting to feel just a little bit, you know, scattered or shattered or those things, I'm I get to remind myself, and I can do it pretty easily now with a lot of practice, to take some time for self-care. I'm blessed in the organization I work for. We do a nature walk every week. And so I look forward, it's Fridays, in fact. So I look forward to Friday afternoons to go take this walk with the community and you know, just take care of myself, as well as kind of provide a service too. But anyway, self-care has changed fundamentally for me over the years. And I think it is really solely for me because of recovery. Anyway, thanks for letting me share with you all.
Thank you, Margie. And I love the phrase you had about scattered and shattered. I think that really resonates with me about what that feeling feels like. Thank you. And Stephanie, I see your hand. I just wanted to let people know that it is 1 o'clock for those of you who do have to go for another appointment. I still hope that you will share your comment with us, Stephanie. But meanwhile, I wanted to thank everybody for being here and working with us through these issues. If you have questions, ideas, requests for resources, as always, you have our email, contact us, and we're happy to send along what we can. Thank you all for being here. And Stephanie.
Hi, I'm a supervisor for a peer support program. So I have my own client load on top of being a peer support. So it's like I deal with my clients during the day, and then in the afternoon when my peers are not working or they're off work, you know, my phone lines are always open. So not only that, I am actually in active recovery myself. And sometimes I get lost in the midst of everything to remember how I forget so easily that self-care is crucial, not only for me to be of service to others, but to me to be of service of my family and myself. And I struggle. I definitely struggle. It's like when I get a minute to sit down to myself, like, well, I do need to wash those clothes. You know what? I do need to get dinner started. And I go to meetings and I just don't think that is enough. And by me working for a nonprofit, I don't get leave time and I don't get that day off to reset. So I really struggle with self-care.
I hear you. When you said, when you sit down and you have to do laundry and start dinner, I absolutely hear what you're saying there. And that's I think many of us have similar struggles, and hopefully some of the things, I think just knowing that other people want you to have self-care, that they do care, that that's important, that you take care of yourself. I think that helps in terms of struggling with making the right decision for you in that place. So you can role model that for the other people in your organization, and hopefully they do the same for you, that they remind you that we care about you and that you need to be well to do your job and give you better chance to take care of yourself. I hear you, Stephanie. Patricia raised her hand. Go ahead. Oh, she's on the phone now. Patricia? Oh, I don't think she can speak right now. And Stephanie, in the chat here, there's a comment for you from Dawn as well. Any other comments? From anybody before we wrap up here? Yeah, I'm sorry, Patricia, we can't hear you. I'm not sure. You are definitely not muted on our end as far as I can see. I don't know why the audio isn't working. I'm sorry. But thank you for being in the chat. All right. I think we will wrap it up at this point. I agree with you, Patricia. I think workplace culture is a huge part of it. And that's something all of us, each one of us can impact, right? And that's the good part in it, that we can all shift that needle a little bit to role modeling, self-care, taking care of each other. I absolutely agree with you, Patricia. All right, then I thank you all for being here as always. I wish you a fabulous weekend. I hope you enjoy the nature walk, what you were mentioning. I hope I can do a similar one later on as well. And next time we will see you all will be for a presentation by Dr. John Kelly, sort of like a review of what we have done in our project to date and some updated concepts. And that's going to be off our regular schedule. It won't be on the first Friday of next month. It'll be, I think, 2 weeks later. We'll send the link out when we send out the materials from today's talk on Monday. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
And Catherine, if you can stop the recording.